I'm not going to accept any work requirements that's going to impact on medical health needs of people. I'm not going to accept any work requirements that go much beyond what is already. Well, I voted years ago for the work requirements that exist. But it's possible there could be a few others, but not anything of any consequence.
Anything that has consequence. This is a senator who voted for work requirement. I think when you're sitting in the room and you're listening to the American public, why wouldn't he want to help people get out of poverty? If he doesn't want to have something that has consequences, he wants to borrow more money from China to pay an able-bodied person who has no dependents, not even to look for a job, not even go to school for 20 hours.
It's so interesting what House Speaker Kevin McCarthy sees in the American people, because it doesn't seem to be one rooted in fact. Anyway, that was McCarthy and Biden this morning, showing us that they're still very far apart on the work requirements proposed by the GOP. But with less than 2 weeks before a deal has to be done, the national debt default is looming. Check this.
We're going to come together because there's no alternative to do the right thing for the country. We have to move on. And to be clear, this negotiation is about the outlines of what the budget will look like, not about whether or not we're going to, in fact, pay our debts. The leaders have all agreed we will not default. Every leader has said that.
All right. So Biden says they're not going to default. Also, McCarthy seems pretty confident that his party's demands are going to be met. But let's kind of look at what those demands are. So we know this from The Guardian. House Republicans are demanding $4.8 trillion in spending cuts, mostly to Democratic priorities, including welfare and environment spending, demonstrating the political vice in which Biden finds himself. Progressives have warned him not to give in. And even if the deal is going to be reached at the last minute, it might not be clear from there, as far as I'm concerned, to USA Today. A deal in the coming days to raise the nation's debt limit won't necessarily sound an all clear signal for the US economy, but an 11th hour agreement that narrowly averts defaults but frays nerves, sinks stocks and pushes up interest rates could still do some damage, as did similar standoffs in 2011, 2013, and even push a frail economy into recession. Yikes. So it sounds like there are a lot of things up in the air, but one thing I can tell you is definite and clear is that McCarthy is not going to consider any tax increases for the wealthy.
Are you open to considering a tax increase on the
wealthy
in exchange?
No. Did you listen? Were you here earlier? No, I'm not being a jerk.
Yeah, is he sure about that? Because it kind of seems like he is, or at least not being a representative of the people as far as I'm concerned, because God forbid people increase taxes on the wealthy. Anyway, at the end of the day, it seems that those who are most affected by any kind of cuts will definitely be the American people, not the wealthy. Check out this headline here. Yeah, 3 in 4 Americans worry the default could hurt them, and their worries are definitely legitimate because we know how the GOP rolls. Jessica.
Yeah, this is what I'm thinking about 24/7 is this debt limit fight, because it's absurd and unnecessary. And they're essentially using this game of chicken of we're going to default on the debt as a way to cut policies. Like that's their purpose. We've raised the debt limit or the debt ceiling 78 separate times since 1960. This time is no different from the others. In the words of Warren Buffett, if there was a credit rating given to the federal government, it would be 100. It's impossible for the US government to run out of their own money. They make the currency. They can always make good on their obligations. So this idea that the debt is unsustainable and we owe all of this money to China is fear-mongering, but it's inaccurate. And it's dangerous for elected officials to just be telling inaccurate information about how our fiscal and monetary policy works in this country. And the cuts being proposed are dangerous and people will starve. People could die because of them. It's that serious. So making it so that food stamps or SNAP benefits are only available to you if you work 20 hours per week is what McCarthy would like to propose. That is an absurd policy when the Federal Reserve's explicit plan is to increase unemployment, to make 2 additional million people unemployed by the end of the year. That's what their reports show. So you're going to take away people's ability to work to provide for themselves and also take away their ability to eat. That is what the government is doing under McCarthy. That is dangerous. They're not proposing cuts to the $842 billion in the defense spending bill that they just passed. What is the SNAP benefit or food stamp spending annually? $113 billion, so 13% of defense, and they haven't proposed any cuts to defense spending. So when you talk about the budget, you're talking about our moral priorities as a nation. You don't get to say, this is what we're going to spend money on, and then McCarthy gets into office and says, actually, we're gonna change all of the priorities that the prior Congress legislated on. You don't get to do that. You don't get to spend money on your credit card, if you wanna use that analogy, and then get the bill and change what you've spent money on. That's the only credit card analogy that fits here, because all the national debt is the total dollars put out into the economy. Their red ink is our black ink, as Stephanie Kelton would say, all of the dollars they've put out that they have not taxed back. And so it's absurd that they're using this as a bargaining chip to make life harder for working Americans. That's what's going on.
Yeah, but that's how they like to do business with the GOP. The House always wins. And it seems that House Speaker Kevin McCarthy is intent on maintaining that and ensuring that we the people will continue to struggle and to suffer so that corporatism can continue to reign. But then again, that's kind of the American way, I guess.